What's happening, people? I hope you're all well. And I thought to myself before this video, I hope it don't rain, because the last time I recorded a video it rained, and good old England, it's raining. Anyway, the fight there never was. It would certainly appear that way at the minute. Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder. That could have been such a fight. Now, there's no guarantee. Boxing's a funny old game, and there's no guarantee that that fight is never going to happen. It could happen. A year from now, this video could be totally redundant. But at the minute, and history would concur, that this fight is likely to never take place. If I was a betting man, I'd be putting my money on the fight not happening and the fight happening. So let's talk about it. The reason this fight, if it doesn't happen, will be so disappointing is because that fight is so intriguing. You got two punchers, two vulnerable fighters, and two athletic fighters, two explosive fighters. And when you get those combinations together, you're going to get fireworks, or at least you're likely to get fireworks. Now, the fight right here, right now, is still intriguing for me. It was intriguing to me before Wilder lost to Parker, and it's still intriguing to me now because I believe styles make fights. There are certain things that Joseph Parker does that Anthony Joshua cannot do or do as well. And on the flip side, there are things that Anthony Joshua does that Joseph Parker cannot do. So it's still intriguing to me. I don't think Wilder is done yet. And you know, you're only as good as your last fight, but for me, I don't think Wilder's done yet, necessarily. Another performance like that and I might reconsider. But that fight there, Anthony Joshua versus Deontay Wilder, even in these days and times, is intriguing because of the points I raised before. Explosive, hard hitting, vulnerable. But it doesn't look like that fight's ever going to take place. Now, for me, the time for that fight to have taken place was around 2018 or 2017. And that was because both fighters were undefeated. When a fighter's undefeated, they have a certain type of aura about them. Like, there's this aura about an undefeated fighter. There's an intrigue about an undefeated fighter. There's a mystique around an undefeated fighter. And the fighter himself has a certain level of determination that often evaporates once they've lost one or two fights. Not always, but a lot of the time. And there's also fan intrigue around undefeated fighters. Now 2017, 2018, before, Joshua had never been defeated as a pro. Wilder had never been defeated as a pro. So those two fighters coming together, and they were both knockout artists. They were both undefeated, and they were both perceived to still have vulnerabilities because Wilder still had that Harold Sconia's moment. Joshua had the Dylan White and the Klitschko moments. So you kind of thought that fight was whoever landed first. But when both fighters were undefeated, when neither fighter had lost a professional bout, both fighters were knockout artists, but both fighters looked vulnerable. That fight, I'm telling you, would have been one of the biggest fights potentially in boxing history. In my opinion, that fight would have been one of the biggest fights, if not even maybe the biggest. I'm not saying Wilder and Joshua are the best fighters to have ever lived, and there were no fighters before them that were better. That's a video, that's a whole nother video, and I probably disagree. I'll probably say there were fighters better than Wilder and Joshua in previous eras, but you don't need to have the best fighters to have the biggest fight in boxing history. And I believe that Joshua and Wilder back in 2017 or 2018 may have been the biggest fight in boxing history so far. And I'm even including Rumble in the Jungle, potentially. I'm not saying it would have been, we don't know, we won't ever know, but it could have been the biggest fight in boxing history. So it's very disappointing that that fight didn't happen at that time. Now, if the fight happened now or before Wilder lost to Parker, the fight wouldn't have been as big, but it still would have been intriguing. And I still say that Joshua Wilder now, or Joshua Wilder before the Parker loss for Wilder, would have been a bigger fight than Fury Usyk. Now, I'm not saying that, because it's funny, isn't it? Because Usyk beat Joshua twice, Fury beat Wilder twice, but in my opinion, Joshua versus Wilder would have been bigger than Usyk Fury. I don't see many people that are interested in the Usyk Fury fight. Honestly, I don't see that. That's not the fight on the casuals' lips either. That's not the fight on the casuals' lips, and it's the casuals that ultimately control the market. Hi there. Right, mate. It's the casuals that control the market. People can laugh at casuals and say, oh, they don't know about boxing. But without the casual market, boxing is probably, you know, a dead business. So it's the casuals that bring the spending power. It's the casuals that pay for fights that me and you don't pay for. We look at fights with scrutiny. We're like, that's not pay-per-view worthy. What's this guy done? What's that guy done? Casuals don't care about that. The casuals, at least in England, you know, they normally watch the football, and then instead, you know, they see a bit of boxing's on, so, oh, we finished watching the football, what should we do? Let's watch some boxing. That's how a lot of the UK casuals are. I can't speak for foreign casuals, but I'm guessing it's something pretty similar. So it's the casuals who ultimately dictate, you know, the casual interest is what drives the boxing business and puts money into the boxing business. And I don't see the casuals talking about Fury versus Usyk. I tell you, like, my father is, I would class, a casual boxing fan, and he sometimes says, who do you think's going to win? Or like he says, like, talks to me from time to time about boxing. And he hasn't mentioned Usyk Fury to me, and that's the undisputed heavyweight title fight. But either way, I'm kind of digressing. Joshua versus Wilder may be the fight that never was. A bit like Lennox Lewis versus Riddick Bowe in the amateurs. And it'll be such a shame, because that fight was intriguing. That fight has a certain mystique, a certain intrigue about it, a certain interest in it. There's a certain level of interest that sort of erodes in me when I think about that fight. There's a certain type of intrigue, and there's a certain type of, you see, I get a lot of boxing predictions right, but that one is something that I would have to really think about, even now. But it looks like we may never get that fight, and it'd be a real shame. As I say, just to sort of round off, it could have potentially, back in its day, been the biggest fight in boxing history, in my opinion. And even now, it still intrigues me, but with Wilder losing to Parker, I see it, honestly, because Wilder didn't lose by knockout, I can see a way that they make that fight, maybe give Wilder a couple knockover jobs, and then, you know, make the fight anyway, because he didn't lose by knockout. But it's becoming less and less likely. So yeah, just maybe the fight that never was. Sometimes that happens, and it would be such a shame. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about what I said here. Do you think the fight will ever happen? Do you, like me, think it's a real shame if it doesn't? And who do you think would win if those two were to fight back in 2017? And who do you think would win now? And is that different to you? let me know. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, hit the notification bell so you get a notification when I make a new video. If you appreciate my work and want to leave a donation, there's a link for that in the description. And with that, enjoy the rest of your day.